Welcome to Audacity Works, a podcast inspired by and dedicated to the working artist, the creative entrepreneur, and generally, doing the damn thing. This exists on the premise that the world belongs to those who have the audacity to believe that their lives have value. This is for you. Welcome to Audacity Works. I am your host, Rachel Strickland, and this is episode number 139, and it's about rest and my beef with rest, which is not how it sounds, but you'll see. Just bear with me. But first, tiny life updates. The Monstrous Feminine premiered, at least 30 minutes of it premiered on Friday night at the Yellow Wallpaper and Other Stories alongside my co-conspirator, Georgia Schrubbe. And this was a beast of a project to pull off, and I really credit Georgia with pulling it off, because she pulled it off. It was one of those situations where we only had the theater for the day, so that meant tech and dress and the show all had to happen in the same day. And the core, the Yellow Wallpaper, had like 8 dancers in it, so lots of moving parts. Georgia hired a videographer and a photographer, so the photos are already back and they're wonderful. I'll put a link to Annabelle Woodsman, the photographer, in the show notes if you want to see some of her stuff. The footage we have not gotten back yet, but we're both looking forward to it. So far, the question that I've gotten most is obviously like, how was it? It was fucking dope. It was fucking dope. I don't have a better word. But it was a long day. Luckily, I have a friend, Michelle Jader, the painter, who's in residence at Robert Lang Studios, and she had offered me and Manflesh sanctuary because there's a small apartment that she stays in that's attached to the gallery. So I just trudged my worn out ass in there in the afternoon after tech and dress rehearsal back to back. She handed me a key. I went upstairs and fell asleep, and thank goddess, because that meant that I had a little reset so that I could come and pour everything that I had out onto the stage for the performance. And my goal for myself during the performance was just to stay in the room. I have said, and I will die on this hill, your primary objective on the day of a performance is to enjoy yourself during the show. And part of that is just staying in the room, staying in the moment, which with that kind of intense focus is very difficult to do for even 5 minutes, let alone 30. But I did. I stayed in the room and I had a great time. My favorite part to perform is the middle part because it's very stupid and it's funny. And I had performed it for 4 people during a trial run a couple of weeks ago, and I got some giggles and some laughter out of them, so I was hopeful. It is much louder when an auditorium full of people are laughing when you hope that they will laugh. It feels really good. It also feels good to give people a moment of levity and humor when you're dishing out some pretty thorny pancakes alongside of that. So I loved it. I feel so lucky that I got to do that, and now we can make the rest of the show and hopefully premiere it in 2020. No, I'm not going to say hopefully. I'll premiere it in 2026, barring any, totally disruptive life event. I'm just going to go ahead and say that's happening. Okay, so I'll stop waxing poetic about it. Other couple things to tell you about. The next Charleston Artist Salon has been set. It's Sunday, July 6th from 5 to 7 p.m. And that's going to be at Arc Take 2 Studios. And I don't actually have a web page to put in the show notes or anything. But if you are local to the area and you want to know about stuff like this, when it comes up, I'll put a link to my local list. It's very small. There's only like 26 people on there so far. So, and that's just for people who are conceivably within a driving distance and would want to come to something in person. But I will put the details for the salon in the show notes, even though there's no link. Last thing on the docket, the Irish Aerial Dance Festival is rapidly approaching. I'll be there I'm leaving in just a little over 2 weeks, and to rejoin one of my favorite and most sacred gatherings of people and ideas, and really looking forward to it. I'll put the link to the festival in the show notes. It is worth the plane ticket. And there's still plenty of room and lots of classes. So don't think just because it historically sells out like the day that it launches, then things come up for people and a lot of people have to renege and they withdraw their registration. So there is room for you. There is room for you at the Irish Aerial Dance Festival. I also recorded an episode a couple of years ago on best practices for those coming to the festival. I'll put that in the show notes because that's my air conditioning kicking on. It's not always intuitive to get there, and learn from my fails. And I've been there like more than 10 times. So I'll put that episode in the show notes for you if you want a reference. Okay, now that I've been yammering on and it's almost 7 minutes in, let's get to the meat of this episode. Rest and my beef with it. So, one, no, I don't actually have beef with rest. I think that with the advent of new information, new ideas about training, particularly training something as intensive as aerial acrobatics or circus arts, but really all physical disciplines, I feel that we as a culture have moved away from that OG rock star culture of like train when you're sick, train when you're dead, like train under any circumstances. Like we can now recognize that that's been harmful. And I think that we as a group can recognize the importance of not just rest days every week, but rest weeks every so often. And in the episode that I recorded a couple months ago with my friend Dr. Jen Crane, we talked about active rest and recovery, and I'll link that episode in the show notes if you want to give it a listen. So I'm not trying to say I'm tired and annoyed by the need for rest. That's dumb, right? It's asinine to be angry about needing to rest. We are not machines. So that's not what I'm angry about, and I'm not even angry. I think I'm just more annoyed because it seems like the answer to every problem that I hear lately is, can you rest? Have you rested? What about rest? Do you rest? Y'all, I am really good at resting. Anyone else out there feel like, no, I actually have that resting thing dicked. I have that dicked. I'm good at resting. I don't mind taking a day off. I feel zero guilt about it. Zero. I'll take 3 days off in a row. I'll take a week off. Guilt does not come into the equation. I am not resistant to rest. And in many cases, yeah, I think it is probably part of the solution, but it can't be the solution for everything. And I've been thinking about this for a while. Like when you've made your peace with resting, you actually know how to do it. You do it in abundance. And you're looking for some kind of a solution to a problem that just may include rest, but it's not just resting. So that's been bugging me for a while. And then I stumbled upon this woman, Raquel, on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and just sort of dove into her content for a while. She's Raquel the Capacity Expert on Instagram, and I find her perspective really refreshing because it just she puts her finger right on the wound that I've been like, this cannot be the only answer. It's just like retreat, cuddle yourself in bed, swamp life. Like, yeah, those things are necessary sometimes, but it can't always be the solution. Like, what else is there? And she really draws a distinction between self-care and avoidance. I'll summarize. She was saying that self-care should prepare you to better engage with the world more, not less. More, not less. And for so many of us, because we're not innately born with these skills, so rest and self-care is like going to ground. Turn off your phone. Don't post on social media. Like, don't read the news. Like, don't just sit alone in a room in a little blanket burrito and wait until you feel ready for the world again. Do you know how long that takes? And also, like, who among us can do that as often as we do need a recharge? Like, we got responsibilities. And her framing of responsibility as well, I found really refreshing. She's like, we view it as a burden when it's really an opportunity. So I'm super interested in this right now. I'm doing a deep dive into her work and my own concepts of what self-care is and what the difference is between, am I caring for myself so that I get to engage and enjoy the world more, or am I just hiding myself away in avoidance and calling it self-care? Because I don't know about you, but I have been beaten up in the last 5 years. I'm pretty sure we all have. Even if your life has been going great, and I'm happy for you, there's still the outside world at large that we've had to process. As a result of that, I can tell my capacity is less than it used to be. And I'm not satisfied with that. Because I don't just want to feel good. I want to have the capacity to continue functioning in a way that allows me to engage with the world, even when I'm uncomfortable, or something bad has happened, or I'm processing hard emotions. I still want to be able to have the capacity to access myself. And while I do see the value in hermiting yourself away from time to time, it can't always be the answer, because it has not given me more capacity, depending on how I have engaged with it. Another distinction that Raquel makes is that self-care can't just be about facilitating comfort for yourself, but rather resilience. And that is what I am after. I want to fully be able to enjoy and have access to all parts of myself in any circumstance, and to enjoy that kind of resilience where I don't need to go to ground for 2 weeks every time something hard happens, and put my output at a minimum, because guess what? I intend on remaining alive for some time, and shit's gonna keep happening to me because that's the nature of being alive. And under the old model, I would just do less and less and less until I barely did anything at all. That's not good enough for me. So rather than expanding my own sense of comfort, what I think is really compelling would be to expand my capacity. So that's what's been on my mind this week. As I look outside my window, summer is blooming and voluptuous and gorgeous. I'm recording this at 9:45 in the morning because I want to go to the beach, and I'm going to be thinking about this stuff. I'll put a link to Raquel in the show notes if you're interested in hearing some more of this kind of perspective. But it was it was like a balm to me, because I've been kind of annoyed by this for a long time. Like, just resting in a blanket burrito cannot be the only solution, right? Is anyone else annoyed by this? And I'm also tired of that being like one of the primary answers that I have for people. And of course, most people really do. They need to rest. But what about capacity? What about true resilience? And what about being able to face the real actions happening in your life without the shutdown. And what could this mean in terms of avoiding burnout? So Raquel's mega famous. I don't know that she'll respond to me, but I'd love to have her as a guest on this podcast. So I'm gonna ask. That's the audacious way, right? In fact, I'm gonna ask as soon as I finish recording this episode. So thank you so much for listening. We're keeping these episodes short and sweet during Slow Work June, and I just found that really valuable, like, for myself, and I wanted to share it with all of you. This perspective's really refreshing for me. Because, yeah, I love hobbiting away. I really do. I love it, and I'm good at it. But stuff's going to keep happening. Life's going to keep happening. And having access to less and less and less of myself because it's just been chipped away by life events is not good enough for me. I say no. I want the full thing. I want the whole cheeseburger. And now a moment of silence for anyone who's ever asked me if I want to split an entree in a restaurant. The answer is no. No, I do not want to split an entree, ever. So yeah, that's what I want. I want the whole meal. I want all of myself. And that's just what's been on my mind. And I hope that it was refreshing for you as well. Gonna sign off here. My good people, thank you so much for taking the time to listen. If you have requests for future podcast episodes, you can reach me always on Instagram at Rachel Strickland Creative or on Patreon at Rachel Strickland Creative. This podcast is powered by Patreon, which also powers so much of my life and makes so many things possible in a much better and more impactful way than they could be otherwise. So thank you so much for your trust. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for standing with me. You make this possible. Thank you. Until next time, my friends, I will leave you with the benediction of decide what's good enough for you and what's not, and then get your own entree and eat the whole thing. So here's to our capacity. Don't go back to sleep.